In our last class, we did starting with Canva and we made a profile picture, right? So today we are going to talk about understanding color theory and typography, right? So today is all about color and typography. Typography is fonts, letters. So that's what we are going to discuss today. So the goal for the day is to understand how colors and fonts influence design, learn how different color combination creates harmony and contrast, explore how colors and fonts affect emotion and communication, apply color and typography principles in a funny and interactive design activity. So, what is color theory, right? Color theory is all about how colors work together and how they make people feel. It helps artists and designers choose the right colors to make their design look good and send the right message. So, color theory is basically, how to choose your colors, because when you want to design, you don't just pick colors, right? There are color principles. You don't just get any color that you want and use it for your designs, because the type of color that you use actually affects how you feel about your designs, right? So moving on, to understand how colors work in design, we need to know how they are grouped. Let's take a look at the three main categories that form the foundation of colors. So colors are divided into three categories, right? We have the primary, the secondary, and the tertiary color. These categories help us to understand how colors are created and combined in design. So this is called a color wheel, right? This is called a color wheel. The color wheel comprises of the primary color, the secondary color, and the tertiary color. So the first color category is the primary color, and these are the three basic colors that cannot be created by mixing any other colors together. In some colors, right, when you mix some two colors together, they are able to give you one color, another color, right? But then primary colors cannot be mixed together. If you mix it, it doesn't give you any color. And what are those colors? These are red, blue, and yellow. If you mix them together, it can't give you any color. So we have secondary colors. These are created by mixing two primary colors in equal amounts. So these secondary colors is being created when you mix two primary colors. Maybe when you mix red and blue, or red and yellow, or yellow and blue, right? That's how you get your secondary colors. And the secondary colors are green, orange, and purple. So we have the tertiary colors. These colors are formed by mixing the primary with the secondary colors. So this color are being formed when you mix the primary and the secondary color. Just like here, we have green. Green is the secondary color, and we have blue. Blue is a primary color. And when you mix it together, it gives you this color. This color is known as the teal color, right? So tertiary color is being gotten when you mix a primary and a secondary color together, then you get the tertiary color. While the secondary color is being gotten when you mix two primary colors together, then you get a secondary color. Hope is understood. So moving on, we have color temperature, and this is how the color temperature wheel looks like. So in color temperature, we have just two colors, which are known as cool colors and warm colors. I don't know if you guys can remember, but then we made mention of these two colors in our first class. We made mention of the cool colors and the blue and the warm colors. So the cool colors comprises of the blue, green, purple. And then what does this color, how does it make us feel? It makes us feel calm and relaxing. So if you look at, I used shapes to make this simple tree using the cool colors, the green, the purple, and the blue, right? So we have the warm colors. The warm colors are red, orange, and blue. And I made this snowball using the warm colors. And then how does this warm color make us feel? Make us feel energetic and then exciting. So now that we have got to understand the three categories of color and then the color temperature, there is something known as color harmonies. So we need to understand how this color harmony works right? So color harmony is how colors are combined together to look good in a design. When the right colors are good, they make a design more attractive and balanced. Here are some simple ways colors can be combined. Like I said, the colors that you choose for your designs actually makes the design more beautiful, right? You don't just get colors and then you just put it everywhere, right? So in color harmony, right, we have complementary. So complementary are colors that are opposite each other on the color wheel. So this is the color wheel right here, and you see this yellow and purple are opposite each other, right? So this is another way that you can choose your colors. Let's see where this was used, right? So example, this is a logo that we have right here. This is a logo, and then this logo, they use the blue, purple, and yellow orange complementary color harmony. So if you look, you will see that they use this both color that are opposite to each other to make this design, right? They use this color to make this design. This is their logo. So that is all for complementary color. So complementary color is basically the opposite colors that are in the color wheels. You can combine it together to make your designs or your logos. So the next color harmony is triadic. A triadic color scheme consists of 3 colors spaced evenly around the color wheels. So this is basically like a triangle shape in your color wheel, right? If you look at this, you see that it has a triangle shape. So this is how the name, it starts with the word tri. So triadic. So it basically consists of the 3 color in your color wheels that look like a triangle shape, right? So where can we see this? If you look at this logo here, right, you will see that it uses the red, purple, the yellow, orange, and then the blue, green. And this is the 3 colors that are here, right? That's what this logo, this company used for their logo, right? So moving on, we have the split complementary. This is like a complementary color, but instead of picking the direct opposite, you pick the 2 colors next to it. We say the complementary, right? That it's just the 2 opposite colors, right? That are facing each other. So in this one now, you pick, if you pick one side, so instead of picking the one that is opposite, right? You pick the 2 that are near it, right? See, they also have kind of a triangle shape. But then I don't know if you look at it, should we call this a triangle? I don't really think so. But then this is how it is. It's as if you are splitting the second side, the second color. It's as if you are splitting it into 2. So this is an example of how this color looks like. In this logo, see, they adopted the split complementary color harmony, right? So moving on, we have the tetradic. This uses 4 colors that form a rectangle on a color wheel. It combines 2 complementary pairs, one warm and one cool. Now we talked about the warm color and the cool color. So basically, this tetradic color harmony uses 1 cool color and then 1 warm color, right? And then this one basically has a rectangle shape to it, right? You can say and it also looks like the complementary, but then this one is now with 2 opposite sides. If you look at 1, 2, right, has a rectangle shape. So example of where this kind of color was used is in Google people, they adopted the tetradic color harmony for their logo, right? So now that we have learned how to mix and match color using the color wheels, let's take a look at what this color actually make us feel. How does this color actually make us feel? Because I told you guys that the color that you use in your designs, actually there's a way that it makes us feel. You understand? It affects our emotion and how we feel. So color don't just look nice. They also talk about our feelings. That's what we call color psychology. So color psychology, how colors makes us feel. Colors aren't just pretty to look at, they actually make us feel different things. That's why designers use colors on purpose to send a message, grab attention, or create a certain mood. Let's look at what some colors means, right? So color psychology is basically how color makes us feel. If you look at, this is a color psychology wheel, right? This is a color psychology wheel. So in this where we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. We have 10 color wheels, right? So here, red, how does red make us feel? Excitement, youthful, active, leader, passion, powerful, radical, excited, bold, energy, confident, hot, urgency, strength, determination, love. So this is what the red color, this is how it makes us feel. This is the psychology behind the red color, right? So for the pink, what is the psychology behind the pink? How does it make us feel? Pink makes us feel calm, respectful, romantic, caring, warmth, sensitive, modern, assertive. That is how the pink color makes us feel, right? So we have purple. So purple makes us feel calm, imaginative, elegant, individual, certain, modest, creative, stylish, royal, romantic, and powerful, ambitious, like a lot. This is the psychology behind the purple color, right? So we have the blue color. How does blue make us feel? It makes us feel confident, secure, trust, loyal, cleanliness, progress, powerful, calm, success, responsible, depth, stability, wisdom, truth. That is the psychology behind the blue color, right? So we have the green color. Green color is green, environmental, positive, natural, peaceful, organic, grow, trust, earthly, balance, nature, stable, etc. Right? That is the psychology behind the green color. Then we have for the yellow. Yellow makes us feel youthful, happy, cheerful, summer, fun, energetic, etc. That is the psychology behind the yellow color. And then we have for the gold. And then the gold makes us feel elegance, royalty, luxury, elite, bold, and so on, right? Then for the orange, the psychology behind the orange color is warm, cheerful, inviting, friendly, approachable, social, extrovert, fun, etc. That is the psychology behind the orange color. Then we have the black and white, which is in the middle, right? So black makes us feel power, elegance, formal, death, evil, mystery. That is the psychology behind the black color. Then for the white is light, good, innocent, pure, safe, clean, faith. That is the psychology behind the white color. So you see that the colors that we choose in our designs, there is a way that it makes us feel. This means that when you want to actually make a design, you don't just choose colors, right? No, you don't. So you have to actually sit down and think, oh, how will this color make people feel if they see this design, if they see this flyer, if they see this logo? And then is this color, is it compatible, right? Does it go together? You get? So you don't just choose colors, because if you choose a color that is not nice, that is not compatible, right? People wouldn't like that design, right? So color plays a very, very important role in our designs. So now I have seen how colors can change how we feel about a design. But did you know that fonts can also do the same thing? Yeah. Not only colors, fonts can make us feel a certain way, right, about a design. So the way letters look curvy, bold, neat, or fancy also tells a story. This is called typography, and it is super important in the design. You know, in the beginning of the class, I told you that today is all about color and typography. And typography basically means fonts. And then what is fonts? Fonts basically means the letters that we use in our designs, right? So Typography is all about how letters look in a design. Different fonts, letter style can feel serious, playful, fun, and even fancy. And that helps tell the story behind your design. So as you can see here now, like I said before, it's not only color that plays a role in our design, right? Font also plays a role. You get, so they have fonts that look serious, they have fonts that look playful, they have fonts that looks fun or even fancy. So depending on the person you're making a design for or what the design is for, you know the color to use and then the fonts to use, right? So for example, now you're making a design that involves children. Obviously, it won't be advisable for you to use fonts that are serious, right? As how will it make the children feel? To make them feel serious, right? So it's better to use fonts that are playful, fun, and fancy, because that is what children like. Then maybe when you are making a font, when you're making a design for, let me say, a website or a tech brand, all those companies, maybe then you might use a font that's like serious fonts, right? Fonts that look serious, right? But then if it involves children, why don't you use something that is playful, something that is fancy, something that is fun, right? Because that is what children likes. In our first class, we treated types of fonts, but then we didn't really go deep into it. So today again, we are here. So the first one we mentioned was serif font. So these fonts have small feet or lines at the edge of letter. They look formal and classic. If you guys can remember, I told you that serif fonts usually have a tiny feet in the letters, at the end of the letters, right? That is how, not at the end, but then at the edge of the letters. Let's look at the example that is being given here. If you look at the T here, right, you can see that it has a tiny feet. Look, even, should I call this the hands? But then you can see that it has a tiny feet there. Look at the I. Has a tiny feet. Look at the M, even at the side here. The same thing with the E, the same thing with the S. So these examples are like types of serif fonts. We have Times New Roman, we have Georgia, and we have Garamond, right? These are like types of serif fonts, right? And this is basically how they look like. So when you type Times New Roman font, this is how the font looks like, right? When you type Garamond, this is how the font looks like. Example, where can you see these fonts? We can see them in newspapers, in textbooks, and banks, right? These are people that basically use this font. And then, before we forget, how does this font make us feel? This font looks formal and classic, right? So, if you look at this Harry Potter book cover that we have here, you will see that the font that was used here is one of the examples of serif fonts. Look, it has a tiny feet here. It has tiny feet. So this is what we mean by serif font, right? So moving on, we have the sans serif fonts. This font does have the small lines, which is the feet that we are talking about, that the serif font has at the edge. They look clean, simple, and modern. So basically, this sans serif font now is basically the font that most people use these days. Like, it is a modern font because it looks simple and clean, not too much drama, right? So examples where you can see this font, example or types of this font are, we have Montserrat, we have Open Sans, we have Arial, we have Lotto, Railway, and so on, right? And this is how the fonts basically look like. If you look at the Montserrat here, this is how a Montserrat font looks like. The Open Sans, this is how it looks like. The Area, this is how it looks like. And then if you notice, unlike the serif font that we discussed about, that has a small feet, look at the Montserrat font. They don't have any feet. They don't have any feet at the edge. They don't have those tiny feet that we talked about. They look just simple and clean, right? So now look at this Jumia website, right? Because this sans serif fonts are basically seen in websites, mobile apps, and tech brands, right? So if you look at the website here, the font that was used here is Montserrat Extra Bold, right? Most fonts that were used here, even the Jumia logo, this is an example of a sans serif font, right? It doesn't have a tiny feet, right? So moving on, we have the script fonts. This font looks like handwriting and feels like elegant, creative, and personal. This is how this font makes us feel: elegant, creative, and personal. And then these fonts basically, they look like handwriting, right? Example: these are the types of script font that we have. We have Lobster, we have Dancing Script, we have Pafico, right? And this is how they look like. This is how the Lobster font looks like. The same thing with the Pafico and the same thing with the Dancing Script. This is how, if you look at it, you will see that it has a handwriting type of look, right? So where can we see it? You can see it in invitation cards. You can go and check, maybe get, if you guys have any invitation card that someone had given you guys to invite you to any occasion, you can get it and check if the fonts look like this, if it looks like a handwriting, right? You can check it. You can see it in logos or anything fancy. Like if you look at this Fresh Milk logo right here, you see that this is an example of script fonts. This is how it basically look like, right? So we have display fonts. Display fonts, these are bold, stylish fonts made to grab attention. So basically, display fonts are fonts that are used to grab attention. It is usually bold, right, and stylish. Example, you have the impact fonts. We have the Playfair display. So if you look, this is how the font basically looks like, right? This is how it looks like. It looks modern and then clean at the same time. And then the fonts are bold. If you see, they are bold fonts, right? Where can you see? You can see it in movie posters, billboard, music album covers, and so on. So the font that was used here is a display font. So now that we have learned how colors and fonts affect emotion and designs, let's have some fun by putting it into practice. We are going to design a family tree using colors and fonts that match each other's unique personality. So now we are going to do a practical, right? So we're going to basically design this. So this is a family tree. This is the grandpa, the grandma, the grandpa, the grandma, and this two grandparents gave birth to the father, and the two grandparents here gave birth to the father. And then, so this is basically my own family tree, right? This is my own family tree. My grandparents gave birth to my dad. My grandparents from my mom's side gave birth to my mom, right? And then my mom and my dad gave birth to 4 children, right? So we are going to design this, but before we go to the practical, before we start the practical aspects, let's run down through the steps to achieve this, right? So steps to create a family tree design in Canva. So the first thing is to go to your Canva, open your Canva software or application, right? Click create a design and choose presentation slide, right? Document. So I want to believe that by now you all know how to create a new design because we did this. But then we remember how to do this is to click on the 3 bar that is here. Then this page pops up. You click on the create design, and then we are going to choose this presentation. You see 16 by 9 document size. Once we have created our document, right, the next thing is to set our background, to change our background color. So how do we change this background color? We click on the color icon here, right? Or you can also do this thing by going to the element and searching the gradient background or any background that you really want to use, right? So we click on color, go to element and search the gradient background. But if you don't want to use element, you can just click on color, then you scroll down to your color distance and you see gradient. So here you can choose any gradient that you want. And even if you don't like any one here, you can still make your own colors, right? I'm still going to show you guys. So the step 3 is to add circles for each family member. So the next thing you're going to do is to go to tools, then click on shape, and then we select the circle shape, right? Which we are going to use for each of the family members' head. So after doing that, so here you can see that we have already added the circles. So the next thing we are going to do is to add the lines, the lines that we're connecting the circles to make it look like a tree, right? So how can we get this line? By simply going to tools. Then instead of clicking shape this time, then we are going to click on the lines, and then we'll choose this particular line, and that is what we are going to use to connect this line. You guys are going to see how I'm going to do it when we start the practical. Then the step 5 is to upload or add cartoon avatars. So these cartoon avatars, I'm still going to give you guys the cartoon avatars, but then you can still get this on your own if you want by going to on your browser, and then you just type avatar boy and girl or cartoon face, anyone that you want to, and they will bring us so many images for you. Then you upload. But then if you don't want to do that, I'm still going to give you guys the avatar heads for you guys to use and do the design, right? So after uploading the avatar or the cartoon heads, then we place them each where we want them to be. Then the next thing after doing that is to match each person to a color. Remember, the goal here is using of color and then fonts, which is typography, right? So we click on the circle that we want, and then we choose the font. We choose the color that represents that person, right? We choose the color that represents that person. So assuming now that your grandfather or your dad, has this bold personality, then what is in our color psychology, they say bold is red color, right? So you can just choose your red color. So this is how we are going to achieve this. We are going to use the color the psychology color wheel to achieve this color. So we'll look at it, and then we know the characteristics that our parents and grandparents and then our sisters and brothers, the characteristics that they possess, and then we choose the colors, right? So after doing that is now to add the names and the traits, right? So I didn't add the names, right? But in yours, you're going to add the names for me, right? So we now change the fonts. We write their name with the font that we think matches their personality, right? The font that matches their personality, you get. So the next one is to style your fonts. Okay, that's what I basically say. So after writing the names, it's just basically to choose the fonts that matches their personality after we have choose the color that match their personality, right? So at the end, this is what we got, right? So basically, if you look at the fonts, you see that the fonts are not the same, right? I chose the font according to their personality, right? So now, after the practical, after we have done doing the practical, you guys are going to do a mini project for me. You guys are going to design a family tree that is just like mine. But then yours should be beautiful, more beautiful than mine. So you're going to make your own family tree following the steps that we just mentioned. And then I'm going to show you guys how to achieve that. I'm going to design it for you, right? We are going to have a practical class now. So let's go and open let's go to our Canva and open our Canva, right? So we are now here in our Canva, right? Just like the first step stated, go to Canva. So now we are in our Canva, and then next thing is for us to create a design, right? So remember, to create a design, we click on this play bar menu, then we click on the cross sign, which is create new design, right? Then you see presentations here, right? So we click on this. So after creating our document size, so this is it right here, right? So the next step which we are supposed to do now is our background, to set our background. So we can simply do this by, if you click on the document that you have set, you see background color, you click on it, then we come down here and we choose any color that we want. See, this is gradient, this is just normal color. If you click on this, is normal color, but then this place they wrote gradients. If you click on it, you see it will give you different colors, right? If you don't like the colors that have been outlined here, right, you can still come here in this color and you can see gradient here. This is solid color. Solid color means only one color. While gradient is the mixture of two or more colors, right? So here in gradient, you can choose as many colors as you want here, right? You can choose as many colors as you want. You come here, you click, choose another color, so you can see two colors, right? And then it gives you different option. If you look, is one is by the left and one is by the right. So here it changes it to top and bottom. Here, see, is now side. Here it gives you that radial shape. Here the same thing, right? So now I already have my colors, because one thing with Canva is that once any color that you choose, like, it automatically saves it for you, right? So this is the color that we used for the background, right? So the next one should be to add a circle for each family. So that's our step 3, right? So we can simply do this by going to tools, we click on shapes, we click on shapes, and then we click on the circle here, right? So we scale this down. Remember, we said to scale evenly, right? To scale each side, we code our Alt key and then we scale, right? So this is what we do. Then we keep this here. Then instead of us coming to shape again to come and choose another color, we can just, but then let's first change this color to white. So we come to color here, and then we choose white. So we have the white color here. So instead of us to go to tools again and press shape, we can simply double this shape, right? How can we do that? We call it duplicating. How can we duplicate this shape? By simply holding your Control key and press D. So if you hold Control and D, they place the word CTRL. If you press it down, then you press down your D together, right? And then you get that. So we have this. So to duplicate again, we press Control D again, we press another Control D, right? So we make this to be the way we want it to be. So the next thing should be the head. This is the grandparents' head. So the next thing should be my dad and my mom's head. Let me use it like that. So these are my grandparents' heads. So now we have to make my dad and my mom's head, right? So we do Control D, right? So this is basically my dad's head. So we do another Control D. And this is my mom's head, right? So after this, the next thing we are supposed to do is to make my siblings' head, right? My brothers and sisters. So we can get this closer to each other like this. Simply like this. So the next one is to press another Control D, and then we have this. We do another Control D, and we have this, and we do Control D again, and we do Control D again, right? So now we have this, right? So basically, the next thing that we are supposed to do, right? The next thing we are supposed to do is to put our lines. The lines that connected that makes it look like a tree. So we come down here to tools, we click on line, we choose the first line, right? So our line, hold down the shift key so that we can reduce it evenly. You can still retain each straight line, right? So now we have this. So we move this and you move it here. So you can see that this thing is on top of the circles. So how can we make it to be at the back of the circles, right? So we right click on it, we see layers, right? So what is layer? So one thing in design is that now everything we do, everything we bring in, or any shape we create, or any background we create, is a layer. What do I mean by this? Let me show you guys now. Let me press show layers now. You see, this are all the layers. So this is the background. The background is a layer. This is the first circle, the second, the third. These are all the circles we created. And then this is the line, right? So this is what layers look like, right? So Now, assuming now that the line is on top of the circles, but then we want it to be at the back of the circles, right? So you can simply just come here and then bring the line down here, you see? So the way you arrange your layers basically, right, affects your designs. So you need to understand where things are supposed to be, right? Let me do Control Z. Remember, Control Z is to undo what you have done before. If you do something and then you don't like it, you can press Control and then Z, our Z. So let's undo it, right? So another way we can do this thing without showing the layers or bringing it down is that we can simply right click here. We see layers, we say send to the back, right? Or send backward. If you send it to the back, it will go to the back of the circles, right? So now, so you see now it have changed. I don't know if you guys saw what happened, but then it was at the top. But when I did send to the back, it came here, right? So the next one, let's connect the dots for the second one, right? So instead of us to go to tools and lines and start creating another line, we click on the line here and we do another Control D, right? And then we move this to here, right? So now we repeat the same process that we did for the other one. Look now, this line is on top of here. Look what is going to happen. When we right click, layers, send to the back, you see, it's now here. It's now at the back of the circle, right? So now we have connected the heads for our two grandparents, right? For my grandparents, right? So the next one is to connect the line to my dad's head and then the line to my mom's head, right? So now we do Control G again to duplicate this line. You can see there are two icons here. We have this one and then we have this one that looks like a cross, and then this arrow type, these two arrows that are curving, right? This, right? So now this line is like this, but then this is not how I want it to be, right? So how do I achieve that straight line kind of, so a slant line? So you see this, anytime I move my arrow, if my arrow is here, it's purple. If my arrow is here, it's purple, right? So, but then this is the tool I want to. So I want to rotate this to be like this, right? So I rotate it and then I move. It's not like the way I want. I come to the head, I keep it like this. Bring this one, I keep it like this. But then if you notice, this is at the front of the circle, but then we want to send it to the back. So we right click again, and then we do layers, then we send to the back, right? So now you see we have these two circles connecting to each other, right? So the next one is for us to do the same thing we did here for my mom's head. So we do Control D again, right? Bring this here, but then you see this is not how we want our line to be. So we do what again? You just move your mouse and you see that it is moving with you as you are moving your mouse, right? So we move it like this and then we take it up here, right? Then we right click again, layer, send backward or send to the back, and then we have the lines, right? It's now connecting, right? So well, I feel like this thing is too far from each other, kind of, right? So what do? I bring it closer and then I get this. You see, is at the end. Then I shift it like this. The same thing here is at the end. I shift it like this. So perfect. So now it's remaining my brothers and my sister's head, right? So to be able to achieve that, we come here and we do Control D again to duplicate this, and then we bring it here. We right click again, layer, send backward, right? We do again, layer, layer, send to the back, right? So you see, so now we need another line that will cross like this, right? So we duplicate this, Control D. We rotate the line like this. Then we bring it here. This line is long, so what do? We hold down our shift key. See what happens if I don't hold down the shift key, you see? But then if I hold down my shift key, it's straight. So we do like this. Right? So we need another line that will cross like this, right? So we come here and we do Control D, duplicate another line, hold down our shift key, and then make this line longer, right? Then we bring it here. We are heading somewhere, right? Yeah. So, but then I feel like this line is too short. So why don't I bring it like this and then make this one, sorry, think, okay. So I hold down my shift key and then voila. So the next thing to do is to get the lines that will connect my siblings' head, right? So I come down here, I do Control D, right? I bring this here and then I rotate it like this and put it here, right? So this line is too long, so I do it like this and then one head, send this to the back. So we have achieved one, right? So we come here again and do Control D, and then we place this here, we reduce the line, do like this, layer. So now it's the circle, right? So we say bring to the front, right? So we do the same thing, we do Control D for this line and then we bring it here, then the circle, we do right click, layer, bring to the front. So you can either send the line to the back, right, or you send the circle to the front. You can do it either way, right? So for the last head, we duplicate this, do Control D, we do this, and then we shift this like this, and we put it like this. Well, then it's two. So let's do this. So one thing is that it might actually take time, you see, and it has a long process. So we right click, layer, and then bring to the front. So now we basically have this, right? But if you notice, this is not aligned together. So what do? We start here, we drag our, if you don't have a mouse, you can just, right? If you don't have a mouse, you can also do it like this. You hold down your left keybar and then you just move your mouse around like this, right? And then it selects everything. Then you keep it the way you want, you position it. You see this red line I showing? I told you guys that once something is centered, the line shows. So now we have gotten the center line, we have to get the cross, right? So you see, I don't know if you guys can see the cross line, the red cross line. So this means that everything is aligned together, right? So now we have this. But then I noticed that this is too big because when we start adding our fonts, there will be no space where the fonts will be, like around here, right? So I select it again and then I come to the edge. You can either come from this edge or this edge or this edge, any edge that you want to, right? And then you simply hold down your Alt key and then you see it will scale down evenly, right? But then if I move my hand from the Alt key, it's just scaling one side. This is what the Alt key does, right? So we do Control Z and then I come here, hold down the Alt key and I scale evenly. So it still maintains the center position that it was in, right? So now we have this and I think this is actually perfect, right? So now that we are done connecting the lines, what is the next thing that we should do? We are supposed to upload the avatar head, right? So we have to go and get our avatar head. So because mine, I already have mine uploaded here already. So like I said, I'm going to give it to you guys so that you can actually have, so that you guys can use it instead of going to go and download another one. So because I already have mine here and then I've already copied it, I'll just do Control V, and then these are all my avatars head, right? So I'm still going to give you guys the avatar head. So now all I need to do is just to basically just place all of them, right? Make sure they're all centered very well, because you know we talked about balance in our first class, so we need to make sure they are all centered very well. So this is basically it. So now we are finished, we are done positioning the heads, right? So you can see my grandparents here from my dad's side, my grandparents from my mom's side, my dad and my mom, and then these are my siblings. So if you look now, you can see that this one is up, is not aligned properly, right? So what do we have to do? We highlight these two, right? And then get it down to be in position with them, and then we just basically just shift this like this. So now we have this, right? So now we have this. So what is the next thing that we're supposed to do? We're supposed to add colors, right? So color is the next thing for us to do. So moving on, let's match each person with the color. So for my grandfather, he has this characteristics of loyal, trust, confidence, and cleanliness, right? And then if you guys can remember, in our color psychology, what color has that? That's the blue color, right? The blue color has the loyal, trust, confidence, and then cleanliness, right? So basically we choose the blue color. We come to color here and then we choose our blue. Oh, sorry, you see, I selected the background instead of selecting the circle, and that is why this happened. So to undo what I have done, I do Control Z, and then we are back. So I have to click on the circle, not on the background, and then I choose my blue color. So you see, so from my grandma, from my dad's side, she has this warm, you know, cheerful, social, and friendly. Yeah, that is the kind of person that I know her to be. So now, what color do you think has this quality? The orange color. So we are going to change the circle to the orange color. And then voila, this is what we have. So now, for my grandfather, my grandpa, from my mom's side, he's basically a farmer. You understand? He's a farmer. He likes this green nature, it's peaceful, and then he's wealthy. He has so many yams, and like he has so many yams, cassava, and so many land. So basically he's a farmer. So which color do you think perfectly suits him? It should be the green color, right? So now we click the circle and then we choose green. So from my grandma, from my mom's side, right? So she is this stylish, creative, elegant, and powerful person. Like she has these characteristics, right? So what color do you think will suit her? That should be the purple color. So we come here and then we choose the purple, right? So now for my dad has this characteristics of a leader, right? Bold. My dad is a very bold person, confident, and then powerful. So what color do you think we should choose for him? What color has this bold leadership quality and then confidence type? That's the red color in the color psychology wheel. So when you are doing this, you should be checking your color psychology wheel to know the characteristics that the color that perfectly fits your parents and your grandparents' characteristics, right? So my dad would choose red for him. So my mom is a calm, respectful, caring, but then she's a sensitive person, right? So what color do you think suits my mom's characteristics? That is the pink color. So we choose pink. So for me, I have this passionate, bold, active, and radical characteristics. So what color do you think should suit me? So obviously red, and that's why I'm my dad's favorite, right? So I'm going to choose red color, right? And then the next one is my sister. So my sister has the stylish, creative, elegant characteristics, right? So what color do you think we should choose for her? What color has those characteristics in our color psychology? That should be the purple color. So we choose purple. So the next person again, my younger sister. So she's this happy, cheerful, intelligent, and energetic person, right? So what color do you think will suit her? That should be the yellow color. And then our last born, our last child, so he has those pure, innocent, clean, pure characteristics, right? So what color do you think we should choose for him? The white color, right? So now we have all those colors. So we are not going to change the color because the circle is already white, right? So those are the colors, right? So you have seen how we applied the color psychology to our family tree, right? So now the next thing for us to do is to now apply our fonts, right? So moving on, let's go and get our font, right? So the font that we are going to, how do we choose our fonts? Sorry, we come to our text and then we add a text box. So this is it. So what characteristics did we say that my dad had? My grandpa, sorry. So he said he had loyal, right? We press enter. Trust. We press enter. Confident. You press enter, and then cleanliness. He was a clean person. So the next thing to do is to scale this down, right? So let's bring it out here so you see what we are doing. So we hold down the Alt key and then we scale down, right? Scale it down to here. So now we have this. So instead of us to come in to go and create another text box, right? We just do Control D like we used to, and then we keep this here, right? So for my grandma, from my dad's side, she has the warm characteristics, cheerful. Then she's social. Then friendly, right? So now we have my grandma's own from my dad's side. So the next person should be my grandpa from my mom's side. So we do Control D to duplicate this. We put it right here. And then, so what are the characteristics that we mentioned that made us choose green color for him? So we have peaceful. Enter. We have wealth. We have positive. He's a very positive person. And then we have the green. green nature that he has because he was a farmer, right? So now we have this for my grandpa. Yeah. So the next person is my grandma. So we do Control D to duplicate this, and then we'll have this. So my grandma had a stylish, then enter, she's creative, enter, then we have elegant, and we have powerful, right? So the next person, so we duplicate this and then we keep it here. So for my dad, remember we choose red, leather, right? Bold, enter, then we have confident, then enter, then we have powerful, right? So we duplicate this also and we put it here, right? So for my mom, she's calm. Oh, Control, sorry. For my mom, she's calm, right? And she's respectful, she's caring, and then she's sensitive, right? So we also duplicate this, do Control D, and then we have this one here. And then for me, I'm passionate. I'm a very passionate person, right? Bold, active, and then radical. Right? So we Control D this, that's duplicate, and then we put this here. So for my sis, she's stylish, and she's creative, she's elegant, and then she's powerful. Then we do Control D here, and then for my other sister, she's a happy person, she's cheerful, she's intelligent, and then she's energetic, right? So we duplicate this again, and then for our last one, he's pure, innocent, clean, so now we have all these characteristics. We have to change the font style, right, to their personality, characteristics, right? So here we choose Garamond. So Garamond is one of the serif fonts. Why are we choosing Garamond? Because loyal, trust, confidence, and cleanliness. And for the fact that my grandpa is an old person, so that's why we are choosing Garamond. So we come here and we search for the Garamond font. Sorry, this is taking time because of network. Let's come back to this later. So for my grandma, we chose Poppins. Poppins is one of the serif fonts. I don't know. So we choose Poppins here. And you see the fonts have changed. So let's search Garamond again for my grandpa and see if it's back. I'll do enter. We'll see it here. So I choose Garamond for my grandpa, for my dad's side, right? So it have changed. So next one should be Times New Roman. You know why I'm choosing Times New Roman is because my grandpa is an ancient person, and then his characteristics, that is the font that matches it. Times New. Ooh. So see it here. We have searched for it. So we have changed it. Okay, still changing. It have changed. So for my grandma, we're going to choose Lobster. Lobster is one of the examples of script fonts, right? So we search here, we search Lobster. So normally this shouldn't take that much time, right? But because of network, that's why. So we click on this and then we wait for it to change, right? So we're almost done, right? We're almost done making our family tree. Making our family tree. It's have changed. So the next one should be Babas. So this is it. Babas font. So this is an example of display font, display, bold, leader. So that's why we are choosing this font. I think we're going to leave this one for now and then come to this one. So here we have Montserrat. Network here is really disturbing. So here we have Montserrat. So we search months. So it's doing this error something as if it's misspelling, but then it's not misspelling, it's just that the network is so bad. That's why you can see nothing is loading here. So this is basically how we're going to choose. So here we're going to change it to Montserrat, here Impact, Dancing Script, Montserrat, and then Luto. So let's check if this one will change, right? So this is not changing because of network, right? But then this is how it should look like when you are done, right? So you basically change the fonts, and then when you are done, this is how it should look like, right? So here we are done changing our fonts, right? So this is how they all look like. So this is how our fonts looks like. This is our family tree and how it looks like. So I expect you guys to create this family tree, right? And then you submit it to me in our next class, and then we'll analyze it and you tell us the reason why you chose the particular color that you chose, right? So this is our family tree and how it is going to look like. You see, different fonts and different colors. Get. So this brings us to the end of today's class. It was nice having you all, and I'll have to say bye to you guys and see you in our next class. Bye.